don't talk about rest, I sleep when I'm dead. Motherfucker wanna come through tripping. Listen, I'm a ribbit, I'm a kung fu king.
Welcome everybody to TruExact Show. I'm here with Brian. It's been a bit, but we're back and better than ever. Our guest here today is Kevin Allen, Khordmaster. He makes beats, produces music, he does the piano, he sings a little bit. A little background on how we met. So we played basketball with each other in Piscataway, New Jersey, a nice little small town here. Actually, it's kind of big, but anyway, unbeknownst to me, this whole time I was guarding him and he was hosting me up, shitting on me down low, if you will. Pause. He made music, piano and everything, and we came across each other on Instagram. So I decided to have him on, talk a bit about music. Now that bored everyone and it's out of the way, Kev, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. You left one thing out. So you sent me a message and you were like, hey, I forget exactly what you said, but essentially you said it's Scott and you invited me to be on the platform.
Right.
And I'm reading this. I'm like, okay, this sounds cool. But I was like, who the fuck is Scott? I was like, who is this guy?
Very
I know
depressing.
you. I know. I know you by name. I of course know you. We played enough times, but I couldn't put it together. And then I clicked the link that you sent and I'm like, I recognize this is the guy who was shitting on a basketball last week.
Right. Yeah.
There he is. Yes, let's do this. So I'm thrilled to be here, man. I'm happy to be here, excited, and yeah, man, I appreciate the invitation for sure.
It's very good, and we'll edit the part out where I got lit up down low. We'll just edit that. I hit a lot of 3-pointers. That's my game. Anyway, let's move on. So before we get into some questions, man, like you're like a jack of all trades, and we normally focus on when we have musicians on, it's a lot of battle rappers, it's a lot of hip hop artists, a few rock stars, but like never really had someone who played instruments, focused like on a piano, and your videos, you teach chords and stuff, which is really cool.
Someone with actual talent.
I'm not doing that. That was Brian, not me. Anyone who rewatches this is Brian, not me.
Musical talent. It's very difficult to play.
Still not playing that game. All right. So, Kev, it's probably from a young age. I stunk at instruments. I hit the triangle and broke it in like first grade, and I realized this is not for me. So how did you get into music at a young age? Was it always the piano? Is that the first instrument you started with? Just give us a little background.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I grew up being interested in the piano ever since I can remember. I had one of the small little mini keyboards growing up. I was able to play by ear, listen to something and be able to replicate it on the keys at a really young age. And that culminated into me taking 1 year of piano lessons in 6th grade. My parents signed me up for piano lessons so that I can kind of hone the craft, if you will. And that went for 1 year with plans and expectations for it to go a lot longer. But I asked my parents if I could take the summer off and then join back when the school year starts, and we took the summer off and never signed back up. So from 6th grade all the way until I turned 30 a few years ago, I wasn't playing piano really at all. I was interested in it on and off. Whenever I would see something on the TV or whatever, it's like, man, I remember that instrument. Like I know that I kind of missed my calling potentially. You know what I'm saying? I think in between that time frame of 6th grade into 30, when I was around 16, I had interest in not so much piano playing, but like producing music. And so my dad and I went to Guitar Center, and he said, if you're that interested in it, my dad's very much into music, DJ'd back in the day. And, as I've gotten older, kind of jumping around a little bit, but as I've gotten older, I've kind of realized he has what I consider the best, and not best is very, very subjective, but he has just like an immaculate and very diverse taste in music, right? From like old school hip hop to rock to like pop and like everything in between, jazz and all this stuff. He like knows so much about these different songs that he's introduced me to over the years, which I think I've gotten some of my music sensibility from. But he said, if you're serious about it, like let's go half and half on this thing called a Yamaha Motif, which is a flagship 61 key. In my case, it goes up to 88 key keyboard. So I put up half the money, he put up half. And that, I loved it a lot. I played with it a lot, used it a lot for a couple of years, but I never really did anything like took it that serious, right? So that was a little blip in that 20-year span, if you will. And then when I was approaching my 30th birthday is when everything sort of culminated into what I'm doing now, which is like, I knew I wanted to get back into the instrument. Ended up selling the motif, doing a little research for an actual 88 key. Actually found the physical book that I was using, like the same exact one that I still had from sixth grade lessons. Went through that entire thing on my own, kind of super nostalgic, as you could imagine. Went through some YouTube videos, ended up signing up for lessons. And that was 5 years ago. Now I'm kind of where I am right now, which is, I was elevating in those years. I plateaued in terms of like learning new stuff, maybe about a year or two ago, because I wasn't taking lessons and being pulled in all different directions. But right now, I am in a place where becoming an amazing and extraordinary piano player is like towards the top of my list of like what I'm focused on. So sign back up for lessons. I practice a lot more now. I'm like dedicated to it and I'm enjoying it like immensely. Like that's something that I'm very, very focused on and having a blast with.
Just to speak on well, one thing, you said you stopped in sixth grade and never got back in it. Sounds a lot like me when I used to play Pop Warner football, and my parents told me I'd never go back to it, and I never went back to it, and I became the chubby fucking fat kid because the summers were for me losing weight. I found out, and once I quit something, glad you got back in it though. Me never played again. But you said 30 years old, you went back into piano. Now we're from the way society is now, it kind of, which is bullshit, because let's take it to rap a bit. Some of the best rappers are over 40 right now, 45, but the way society is they make it deem like once you hit a certain age, 30, like you're too old to be doing stuff. Did that ever cross your mind at 29 or 30, or you just like, fuck the noise, I'm just doing what makes me happy? Did it ever like, I'm getting too old for this type thing?
Yeah, I would say it did not cross my mind. I would say that it was kind of more of an internal sort of just, listening to my gut kind of thing. Like I mentioned, I referenced a few times, like whenever I see anything that either is a piano or like reminds me of it, if I see some, I don't know, black and white lines that are just that look like a piano, it just makes me think about how much I love the instrument. And this is even before getting back into it. So I was listening to those cues more than anything else. And I would even say that there's a guy, I forget his name. It might come to me in a moment, but he was Ian Martin Allison, this individual, right? He's a bass guitarist who I interviewed on my show, and you don't have favorites for your interview, guests or whatever, but fuck it, like I do have favorites. Right? I have certain ones that I like more than others, of course, naturally.
I openly admit it. I actually message people I don't like and tell them you sucked. So it is what it is.
That's I have to have the courage. I'm too nice of a person
You're
to even
way
come
too
close
nice of a person.
to even come close
Way
to
too
even
nice
doing
of a
anything.
person.
Just the thought of doing it is making me nauseous right now. So I can't even fathom that sentiment. But kudos to you for having the just saying what's on your heart. Like that is what it is, right? But this individual is someone who a big part of our conversation. I encourage anyone to check out that episode. Maybe I'll send it to you. You can link it or something.
Definitely.
But it was really, really remarkable because he is he's a person that we had a lot of similarities. He's been playing his bass guitar, his instrument of choice, for a lot longer than I have. But in terms of like him finding out his groove, his niche, in terms of what it is that he's creating content for with regards to the bass guitar, it's very much about education, and he does an amazing job at it and an amazing job inspiring people. So he talked about that. I think in his case, he was like approaching 40, if I'm not mistaken, when that sort of aha moment happened for him. So it's really, I think, remarkable, Scott. Like when I have conversations with people and I'm able to share with them that I am an adult learner. I learned this instrument. What I learned up to the point is like 98% of it is after I turned 30. And hopefully, like for me, like one of the big things that I love is motivating and inspiring people. So when I share that with people, for people that are listening, like, oh, I don't have to have, or forget the proper phrases, but like I can be a person who learns something as an adult, whether it's an instrument, whether it's whatever you want to do, as long as you have enough discipline and enough interest to get through that initial part. How do I get started part? The part that's like maybe practice is not that fun until you start learn. Like I remember specifically that book, Alfred's Basic Beginner Adult Learner book, even though I was a kid learning it, but it was the adult one I was using as a child. And I remember specifically going through these songs in the book. A lot of them were elementary, right? They're just basic stuff. But there was one song, which I haven't played in a while. Maybe after this, I'll probably go over there and actually play it again, just for like a nostalgia kind of thing. But it was a song that sounded much more beautiful than any other song that I learned previous in the book. And it was about midway through it. And I remember going to work at the time. I was working at Verizon, at engineering background. I'm sure we'll get into that stuff. But I was working there, and I remember like having this song in my head all day and being like, shit, I cannot wait to go home to like finish learning it. I want to be able to play the song perfectly so that I can create something that to me sounds beautiful, as opposed to creating something that just sounds like, trivial or whatever, and but is necessary for practice. So that was an aha moment for me. Like, I love this feeling. And now doing the more advanced stuff, now for me it's like it's like a never ending cycle. There's an infinite, maybe, number of things to learn on this instrument.
Right.
And so I want to learn as much as I possibly can.
That's awesome. And I like, Brian, I'll get to you in a second. I like how you said, like, anything black and white reminds you of like pianos. For me, it's horrible because anything disc shaped reminds me of a Whopper. And I just strictly go get fast food right when I see something circular.
Right away. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of disc shaped things out there.
That's
so
why I don't lose weight.
Pudgy that you mentioned. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's all making sense. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
That's why I wear long sleeves indoors when we play, because I want to lose weight because I could go get a Whopper after the games at 11 p.m. Go on, Brian.
I can relate to everything you're saying a lot, because I had like, not with instruments, but I had a similar experience with music in general, where we started making music when we were like 15 years old.
Right. Yeah.
Trying to record and doing this and that. Mm-hmm. And we had met someone. We went over his house. He had a mic. He had a Mac, and he had a cracked version of Pro Tools, right? So we were pretty much just recording. Nobody knew how to mix. No one knew how to master. We were just like doing it by ear pretty much. Oh, you have to equalize. Oh, you have to compress. Oh, I watched this video. It said to do this, right? So when we were 17, and we're at that time of like, oh, what are we going to do? What's your plans? Are you going to go to college? What are you going to do? I really wasn't interested in any type of like regular college route. And I was like, I really don't know. And one of my main interests was doing music. And I was like, it would be really interesting to actually learn how to do this and like really mix a song, master a song, become an engineer. Right. So I ended up finding a school in New York, and I went to it. I went through the whole program. I did the engineering. I finished with it. And after I was done, I think I was what?
05? 05 maybe? 06, around there?
07, because it was 2 years.
Yeah.
So after I was done, I had the option that I could have went to, I could have transferred into another school because it was like a 2-year thing.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to get started in doing it, because I was like, what am I going to do 2 more years of school? I already went through all this. I mean, we went through like in depth how to set up a studio, soldering, learning Pro Tools inside and out, right?
Yeah.
So at the time, I wasn't I don't think I was mature enough to like make certain decisions and say, okay, I'm going to move here, I'm going to do this. So I kind of just dropped it, ended up going back to community college, doing communications, exercise science, just going a whole nother route.
Yeah.
And but my want to do music never went away. Right. But the skills obviously diminished, because especially with something that involves technology like Pro Tools, I mean, you're getting a new version every day.
Yeah, things are changing quite often. Absolutely.
The basic format of it remains the same, but there's all updates within it. So Scott, in what was it, 2020?
Yeah, when we started this, I got back into rapping. We had taken like a 9-year hiatus just because life got in the way, as I mentioned. But yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so he wanted to record like an EP, and he asked me to be on one of the songs. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever. I haven't written in a while.
I hesitantly asked you to be on one of those songs.
Yeah, it's an important word to include in that story.
So I hadn't rapped in a while, I hadn't done anything. I was like, all right, let me see. And it just kind of like re-sparked my interest. And I ended up saying, let's record more. Let me go to a studio. I know someone. I'll relearn how to do Pro Tools the right way. Do it now. It's not like I'm a beginner starting from nothing, so I don't need to learn the basics. And I spent about 3 months doing it and got back into like actually engineering. And then, like
Right.
you said, I mean, you watch everything's on YouTube, all
Mm-hmm.
the videos, everything. There's just one specific guy. His name's Wavy Wayne, and he does this guy. The way he does his tutorials on actual mixing, like he'll do a song from start to finish. And he's a professional. Makes it very interesting. He goes over every single step. So any question you have, the information is out there. All you just have to do is find it.
That's
So it's
fascinating.
yeah, so it's interesting to come across someone that started something at a younger age, kind of was like, I'm not really almost ready to do this yet. And
Yeah,
then you
yeah.
pick it back up because that interest didn't die.
Well, that's Kev. I want to talk to you about that too. Brian brought up something really interesting where he said he wasn't mature enough at that age. I don't think any of us were. Like,
Mm.
let's say you had, like, we look back on it because there was a little bit of a buzz, nothing great when we were like 21, 22 with mixtapes, like on MySpace. Remember that?
Yeah,
MySpace
sure.
music. And like, we
Yeah.
always look back, like, if we would have even had somewhat of a success, we don't know if we would have been mature enough to handle it or even know how to go about it, whether it was signing deals or you would just would have made a lot of mistakes. So do you
Mm-hmm.
think in your case it was a blessing that you didn't pick it back up till 30 where you kind of had, more shit together inside maturity level wise?
Well, I'll answer that question. I have some thoughts on that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get the name of the mix master YouTuber, because that's an area for my music that I am very weak in. I don't spend a lot of time learning mixing, mastering. I kind of just love, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, but creating something from scratch and making it go from a like nothing blank slate to like, hopefully a 7, 8, or even 9 in terms of how it sounds, but to get it from wherever it's at to like that extra 1 point to like, in my opinion, 1 point, like to fine tune it and do all those things. I typically haven't had interest in it, but now after releasing my first project, now I'm like, okay, the next project needs to be better in these ways. I need to learn mixing and mastering so that it sounds sonically better than the previous one. I need to incorporate my voice, need to slash want to incorporate my voice in some way as opposed to it being mostly instrumental. We'll get into all that. But I to answer your question, my thoughts there at one time, Scott, were like, I'll bring you back for a sec, right? So I mentioned
Sure.
engineering background. I went to school for electrical engineering at Rutgers, and then spent 12 years in corporate working for Verizon, many different capacities. And in this season of what I'm doing right now, there have been thoughts over the past 5 years, like specifically, man, if I'm not even gonna say I consider myself. I am very musically talented, right? There was a
Mm-hmm.
time I say I consider myself, right? I
Right.
am very
Though,
musically
you're self
talented.
aware. At this age, you are
Absolutely.
self aware if you're good. Trust me, we come across some people, it's
Dude.
like,
Mm-hmm.
you're self aware at this age.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
that's so important to say it like it is. And there's a season right now. That's a season for me, just kind of
Mm-hmm.
putting that out there, right? But so my big thing is like, there was a time where in these past 5 years, I had thought like, wow, if I had stayed with it back then to like right now, just imagine how out otherworldly musically I would be at this point. There's times I've thought that way. Now I think through it, think about it through a different lens. Now I've recently had a really, really, so in my opinion, game changing and like a paradigm shifting type opportunity to sit across from someone who works for a brand company that I love,
Mm-hmm.
use their products, partner with them, and all kinds of things, right? And I've interfaced with this person online. Now I had a chance to meet with him and a few others in the city a few weeks ago. And what was fascinating is that during this conversation, this person knows me as Khordmaster, right? Because he met me less than a year ago, virtually and stuff, right? He knows me as Khordmaster, knows me as a music producer, pianist, whatever it is that I show on social media. He doesn't know anything about my engineering background. He doesn't know about my 2 MBAs or 2 master's degrees. He doesn't know about my time at Verizon working in corporate. He doesn't know any of that because I don't
Mm-hmm.
have that on my social as much, right? I don't know if he looked at my LinkedIn or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So during this conversation, I pick up that like the questions that I have, like I'm like, holy shit, I have an opportunity to talk to one of the heads of this company that are doing groundbreaking stuff. Teenage Engineering is the name of the company. It doesn't need to be private or anything, right? So they make musical equipment that you may see me post on my social media and stuff, a lot of mobile stuff. And they're a design firm that they put a lot of attention to designing their products and making them look, in my opinion and many's opinion, extraordinary. But I think about the questions that I was asking, right? They were thoughtful questions. There were questions about who do you guys consider your biggest competitor? Because I'm super curious about that. Are you guys afraid of, not even afraid, but are you guys paying close attention to what anyone out there is doing? And the answer was, nah, not really. They're just they're doing their own thing. They're focused on their own thing. And that's why they're able to be so innovative. And a lot of these types of questions were responded, like whether they were from me or from one of my peers who happened to be there. This guy's like looking at me and answering questions like intently, like I'm looking at you guys. And I took from that the energy was kind of like, this person, there's more to Kevin, more to Khordmaster than he even realized. And so I say all that to say, now, right now, what I'm the lens that I'm thinking through is, okay, we know about my musical talents. These other things that I've had experiences that shan't, I didn't think I was going to use the word shan't during this conversation, but
it was actually on my bingo card for you. So
yeah, perfect. Yo, mark it down, man. These other experiences shan't be downplayed. You feel me? They're things that make me who I am today. And now, as I'm realizing, what do I see for myself for this next step? Well, I see like leveraging all of this stuff, the creative stuff, the business acumen, the engineer, the technical stuff. Who else is doing shit like that? I don't know if other people, I don't know. I don't know if there's a lot of other people out there that have these things that are significant, you know what I'm saying? These three distinct buckets. And so that's like my selling point, right? So now having that confidence to know that what I see for myself next is, I've done the entrepreneur thing, the solopreneur creator thing for a few years now, and I'm still rocking with that, but I see kind of connecting with one of these types of brands in a more meaningful way to open up doors, to network more with people, to get more money, to put more money into maybe having a video editor for my YouTube channel, paying a social media marketer for my tutoring business, like these types of things I'm thinking of for like this next year. So I'm excited about what that looks like, but it's helpful that now I'm kind of like, I know which direction I'm working towards, as opposed to just having these ideas and kind of just all over the place.
Yeah, and that's why going back to the beginning of the episode when I talked about age, they look at older people and try to paint them as they're done because essentially we're smarter. We understand the game more, and we're gonna ask more intelligent questions. To whereas a young kid at 22, if you just say, "Hey, sign this $100,000 advance," like, "Oh my God, $100,000! You don't own the rights to your stuff. You don't get to put out what you want." So they try to take advantage of those young kids. So it's like you said, you're more like in depth to ask questions, and you know your value. You know your value at this point.
Yeah, and more importantly, we know debt and paying it off and how long.
Yeah.
Serious, real talk, man.
Yeah.
Not lying about that. This is actually a green screen. I don't even have a license plate. I can't afford it.
So at 35, you're not looking to go into $100,000 worth of debt.
Right.
Dude.
You're taking that to the grave.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Brian, I'll get into something, but if you have something going, man.
Yeah. So you mentioned that. What kind of music do you do? So is it strictly like instrumental stuff, or is it actually like with vocals on it?
Yeah. So right now, 99% of what I've created is instrumental. And I think what I was mentioning before is it's kind of like understanding that my voice is an instrument as well, of course, right? And so now kind of thinking through the lens of how to uniquely integrate. And I'll even share, I've talked to a few other musicians and artists about this. So you asked me, Scott, earlier about rapping and freestyling, right? So I suck at freestyling. Coming up, I can rap any song that I know. I can rap that shit like hard as hell because I know the song, right? All good. But coming up with something over one of my songs, I know what I want it to sound like. I know the flow that makes sense. I do all the reference. I do all that type of stuff, right? But I don't have the capabilities right now. Maybe never. Who knows, right? But to come up with lyrics on the fly, that's something I just don't have. My wife, she got that shit. She'll come when she's in the mood. She'll freestyle over my beats and all that kind of stuff, which is super super entertaining. But one of the things that I do want to lean into a little bit more is understanding that I've had so many different experiences. I have so many different thoughts in my mind. I have ways of communicating those things that it doesn't have to be rapping and rhyming. It can be singing and the song, the singing freestyle kind of thing, which I've experimented with, and I'm like, oh, this is easy as hell. But the words don't have to rhyme, but it still needs to sound good with what you're playing. And I think specifically about this artist Thundercat, who has a song called Them Changes. Okay. It was a song I was listening to, and I'm like listening to this, and it's the Isley, it's a sample of the Isley Brothers drum from maybe I forget one of their popular songs. But it samples that, and he's playing. He's a bass guitarist and producer, a Thundercat. And so I'm listening to this song, and I believe it's him that's singing over the song that he produced, and he's singing, and he's just like saying words, telling a story kind of, but I don't even know exactly what he's really saying or whatever. The words aren't rhyming, but he's like harmonizing, and it sounds amazing. I'm like, oh, that's all it is, right? So like for me, it was kind of an aha moment that might seem like, well, duh, Kevin, of course you can just sing and harmonize and it doesn't have to rhyme. I always thought that if I'm coming up with something on the fly, like in order for it to sound a certain way, sound correct, like, yeah, it should rhyme. It should have some kind of cadence to it. But if you can play by ear and you're good with music, you can kind of get around that by making the words, the songs still sound good harmonically. So that's what I've been kind of leaning into. And if I were to look in a crystal ball about next year or the year after, whenever I release my second project, it'll have a component with that in there. You know what I'm saying? I'll like lean into that. I have access to things like this freaking Neumann U87 microphone, right? Through a partnership with my YouTube channel. So
imagine I wasn't partners and I blanked that out. Like I just like
oh yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like,
like no, right. And blur the actual item here. It's like what is he talking into right there? You know, dude, having access to this stuff, it's like sometimes it's overwhelming, right? When I got the email from a company called Zounds, right, which is a online music reseller of audio equipment, they saw my channel, they reached out, and it was almost a too good to be true scenario of like providing like whatever you want to try out on a website you can use indefinitely. I'm like, where's the catch? What like you mentioned the 22-year-old, like am I signing my soul away? Like what's the deal here? Well, there kind of is. I mean, there's no catch from their perspective. They're awesome in what they're doing, but the not so much catch, but the thing that I quickly became aware of is like, okay, damn, now I have a chance to get the Ableton Push 2. Damn, now I have a chance to get the Nord Piano 5. I can get this, I can get that, I can get this. And I got like 5 or 6 different things all up front, and they sent them. I'm like, holy shit, like this is crazy. It can get a little overwhelming, as you guys may know. Like when you're dealing with like too much equipment, then you're starting to feel a little bit like, oh, I'm like learning all this stuff or not knowing what I want to use, and you're not being creative. Or in my case, I wasn't being as creative as I wanted to be. I was being more like looking around and like figuring out like where do I put all this stuff. And so I had to kind of learn that quickly. But now I kind of settled in. I'm like, I don't need anything else right now for the foreseeable future. So I'm like rocking with what I got. And like I mentioned before, just like locking into leveling up every single day on the piano, not because I have to, but because I want to. And I have to, actually. I have to do it. It's like I would feel like I missed out if I didn't keep stepping up,
It's kind of like my gym membership that constantly just goes to waste, I like.
when was last time you've been? How long ago?
We don't have to know. This isn't about me.
No, okay, no. Wait, what am I doing asking the questions? This ain't Khordmaster.
Conversations.
I'm a guest.
You said something that's really important there, and I think this gets lost on a lot of people because a lot of people worry about the equipment that they have, and they like to boast. And I have this mic, I have this audio interface, I have this processor, I have this blah blah blah. And it's like that's great that you have all of that fantastic equipment, but what are you making with it? Because there are people with garbage that have made platinum songs.
Right. Benefit.
Like garbage equipment.
Yeah.
There was one, what was the name of that one?
I mean, you could even look at guys like Soldier Boy was doing shit on SoundClick. You know what I mean? Like, or Benefit created his whole album with a $13 mic. So it does happen.
It honestly comes down to your ability to work with the equipment that you have. Because I can tell you, like, when I bought all of the stuff that I have, like, I didn't have a lot of money to start with. I had I budgeted myself at like $5,000 for the computer, for the mic, for all the things that I needed. Right. And I mean, I tried to save in some places and spend a little bit more on other things. But I learned my setup and I learned how to work with what I had and make it the best sounding that I could. Because sometimes when you go and you get a bunch of new stuff, it doesn't communicate well with everything else that you have. Because I don't know if you've ever run into this problem where it's like you have all of your things wired up, everything is set up to the way it's supposed to be, and you might get something new. You go to plug that in, install the software for it, and it's not communicating correctly with this device, which is then down to this device, and you need to unplug everything and reinstall and do all this, which sometimes can be a headache,
most of the time.
So it's not always, I have equipment that like a multi-million-dollar studio has. That's great. But can you actually manipulate it and use it to make something amazing? Because like I said, there's people with a $10 mic that are making songs that are getting hundreds of thousands of views. I
think that's so important, man. I mean, even something that's a great point. Something like the iPad, right? I do a lot of music production there, and like when I know Lupe Fiasco's latest album, who's one of my favorite artists, favorite rappers.
Which one was that? I think it's like just the album. Which one was that? The last one? Do you remember?
I'm trying to remember the name.
Was that the one
I know
with,
all this stuff. It's the one with it's a yellow
and black cover. I listened to.
I think maybe yellow and white. I think
yellow and white.
Yellow and black. I was just listening to today. That was from like his second album, The Cool.
No, that's the best album. That's one of the best albums of all time. The Cool. It's one of the best albums of all time. I was
literally gonna like post something about it today.
Yeah. Sorry I cut you off though, but I love Lupe. Lupe's my guy.
You're good, man. Yeah, he's in my
drill music in Zion.
That's it. That's drill music in Zion. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
From what I understood, that whole thing was produced and made on an iPad. So when I see things like that, as a person who uses the iPad, I'm like, cool. Like I like seeing that. I think there's several other cases like that as well. But I'd be remiss. I'm just looking here. I see red and blue behind Brian here, and I need to know like that Zelda that's coming out in about 10 days. You getting that, right?
Are you? It's bro. I've had that pre-ordered for the past.
Are we kidding me here? Is this
sorry?
This nerd shit? Is this?
I have to say something about it.
Just go on. I'll sit back for 5 minutes. Let's go.
Dude, thank you for that. Go ahead. Easily, right? Incredible game. Just thinking about the fact that we're so close to this coming out, and like we'll be able to like boot it up, play it, and like just have hopefully something even close to, maybe exceeds, maybe a little less, but that experience that we had with Breath of the Wild is mind-blowing. I'm a little nervous about the making and crafting, a little nervous about that emphasis on there, but I trust that everything is going to be like the way they're incredible at what they do.
They doubled the size of the map, like
crazy. How, right?
How did they do that you could like I remember days of like playing that game where it was like I would just turn it on, pick a direction, and start going.
Just go.
Whatever happens on this.
I do that in GTA, except it's fun because I kill people
and run people over and shit. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Right, we'll jump back. I was like I have
That's to. That's fine, Kev. I'll give you Brian's number. You two could talk about it.
Perfect.
Fucking nerds.
I obviously gotta get you call us nerds. I mean, we are kind of nerds. I gotta get your friend code, but we'll talk offline.
Jesus.
All right, more questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, went through a stale moment there. But no, Brian, I have one really quick. Sorry, let me just hop in here. Because we didn't get to like obviously you said your father was really into music, so obviously the hip hop and the pianists were influences. What's I like to ask our guests this, especially people who like especially rappers, but since you're more of an instrumental guy, like who's an obscure influence that like people would be, oh, that's an interesting one, like a band or some group like a Shania Twain or someone. By the way, she's on tour this summer, and hopefully my wife makes me go see her. I'm just saying that.
Makes you nice. Yeah. Nice.
Is there anyone like Ace of Base?
It's a good question. Yeah. All right. So, I mean, there's so much music that I love. Anything that I hear that moves me, like I'm about, and that category is vast for me, right? When I think about the type of music, when I think about the word influence, the stuff that's influenced me, like I've thought about this like actively, like is it true? Like basically the stuff that I make right now does it sound like stuff that I have listened to in the past? That's kind of to me like that, like whatever I've listened to in the past that sounds somewhat like what I make now is, in my opinion, what's influenced me, right? So if I think that through a little bit and think about, okay, yeah, there's a type of music or a style of music that fits that category, and it's not anything that anyone normally listens to on the radio or whatever.
Mhm.
That style of music I mean, you called me a nerd already, so I'm gonna lean into it. It's video game music. It's music that I've listened to over the past 25, 30 years, 5 years old, 6 years old, playing games. From that moment all the way to today, there's playlists on my YouTube channel and stuff where I like earlier today I was listening to, I was nerding out at the cafe doing some work, listening to like old school and new school like video game songs, like going like on a trip down memory lane and stuff. And so for me, that is the area that I would say most, like if you listen to my album or listen to my music, you're gonna say, oh, that's kind of where the influence is at. However, in terms of an artist, it's not obscure at all. The artist that inspires me the most, that I'm influenced by the most, that I listen to the most is Tyler the Creator.
Mm-hmm.
His musical acumen coupled with his capabilities to, at this point in his career, be what appears to be exactly who he is, and specifically this musical piece, rather than being this like repetitive beat that just stays the same, like his music is so complex. Maybe music is not supposed to be complex, it's in the eye of the beholder, but it's so much going on in any given song, chord changes, almost tempo changes, all kind of stuff that to me is just like fascinating to listen to. So I appreciate that, and that's another area when we talk about like, I know I keep like prefacing or kind of like alluding to whatever, 'cause I've been given a lot of thought, right? I released Kayla Joy album is the name of my debut project about my daughter, right? And so like the next thing that comes out, it's gonna be different in the sense where it's gonna be a 3-minute song or 2-minute song, whatever. It's not gonna be like repetitive beat that's kind of just looping, which sounds good, sounds dope, happy with the project, but it's gonna be something more cohesive, more complete per song.
You know what? I just that's awesome. Sorry to cut you off, but like Brian, I give Brian a lot of credit for this as well, which I hate to do. I'll probably edit that out as well.
For sure.
Because when we rapped and we got back into it, like I'm a good writer. I could rap like on a 4-minute beat of just like bars, 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 bars. Kind of just like like very steady, to where some people might consider just like, okay, great, he can rap. Brian actually, to go with your point, I don't listen to Tyler the Creator. I never really did, but I get what you're saying with it. And Brian's a big fan of like Joyner Lucas, and he always mentioned like, let's try to make songs relevant, like more like him, that are rhythmic, and break up your bars in like a 4-4-4-4, to where the first 4 might be just rapping, the next 4 fast, and the next 4 are a little slower, to keep the person's ear at like a very interesting pace, like catchy, So like Brian kind of rerouted my style to that, and I feel like the songs are a lot better now, more like, wow, we could perform these and they sound more like, oh my god, the audience is involved. So like I kind of get what you're saying with that, man.
That's dope. That's real cool. Wait, so you guys currently making, y'all are doing the thing now? You're making stuff currently and shit like that. So we have to, I'd be remiss. I mean, we have to collab.
I'll send you some stuff. Yeah. It's cool.
Please do. And I'll send you some stuff too. I want one of you guys, or both of you guys rap. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I know you do, both do. I want you guys to like rap over one of my beats.
Perfect. Like, yeah. This is how we make connections. See here.
All right.
Everybody just be friends, be kind, and stay humble and work hard. I just stole that from his thing right here.
Oh, there you go. I was like, that sounds familiar.
that sounds familiar. All right. Wow, it's almost been an hour already, which is crazy. Kev, I do have some last minute questions for you. Brian, unbeknownst to you, that should be on my bingo card. I said that twice already.
Unbeknownst.
I did, yeah, I did. Oh, I've been saying it wrong the whole time.
It's-
Shit. So I wrote down some gun to your heads as this episode is going on, but I'll ask last minute questions, and then Brian, and we'll do a last roundtable. So, Kev, where can we find your stuff? What's coming out? Your podcast too. You wanted to promote, so go for everything, man.
For sure, yeah. Artist name is Khordmaster. I would say the two, well, it's spelled with a KH. So when people ask me at cafes and stuff, I say it that way. So Khordmaster with a KH, not just K, because they might do KORD, you know. So
Yes.
Khordmaster KH. On Instagram and YouTube are my two main platforms. So you can definitely link with me there. Mention my platform, Khordmaster Keys, which is a podcast, not unlike what we're doing right here. Very casual, very conversational. I very much enjoyed my time here as well, and look forward to hopefully doing it again in the near future with you guys. And you guys are more than welcome to check that out on my YouTube channel. And YouTube actually just came out with a platform that lets you now listen to podcasts in a more streamlined manner. So on the YouTube Music app, which is pretty cool. Pretty excited about that. Just dropped my album, Kayla Joy album, that came out a couple of weeks ago to coincide with my daughter's first birthday. Very proud of the album. It has songs on it like Induced Labor, that takes my wife's heart rate when Kayla was being born during the labor process, and I used that as a tempo for the song. It has hold on.
How'd you get that?
Oh, monitor, literally the heart rate.
Oh.
How
did
I
you
get
think of that going in there, or like did you were sitting there like, oh, I can make a beat out of this? Like,
hold on, I gotta record this.
Yeah. Well, so I should specify, right?
Please.
So I definitely knew that I wanted to make an album for whoever my future child was going to be well before we even had her. But when I say that, I mean more so like looking at the monitor, so not recording it, but looking at the monitor, seeing that rate, and then using that.
Okay.
Afterwards, that type of thing.
Because I was gonna say, I think it would have been like super creative, like in the moment, to like take your phone out and like just voice record.
Yeah.
The fuck are you doing?
Right.
She's going through there. Babe, you'll have to hold someone else's hand. I have to record.
I'm actually, I'm doing something very important right now. I can't tell you what it is, but something very important is going. And it's funny you say that, because I actually illegally did record that whole thing. I had my really small camera like in the back corner of the room, because you're not supposed to, I guess, legally like record and stuff. So I could have very easily used the audio file from that if I wanted to. But we didn't know each other then. You could have like, if we did, you could have recommended it or whatever. But yeah, so that is a project that I'm extraordinarily proud of. And I would even say, like, going forward with this idea to do an album listening with my friends and family, very small, intimate kind of thing, 15 or 20 people. And
would I get the invite or no?
Neither of you.
Oh,
actually, you know what?
What?
Nah, you know what? Real talk.
I respect how quick you said neither of you. By the way,
no. Well, I have to say something for shock value, of course, for shock value. But it was I feel like anyone who knew me, like, basically it was like a message that I sent to everyone, but it was also something that I put on social medias and stuff, like, for people who followed it and were interested through more so about the music and less about, oh, I'm just going to support Kevin, if that makes sense. So like most of the people that I sent it to were people that are like my, closest people or whatever. But my thought was like, oh, I would love for any of my followers or fans or whatever out there who happen to live in the area. But it didn't kind of turn out that way, right? It turned out to be that intimate kind of setting. And I was so nervous leading up to it that because sharing your music with others, like, for me, that's never been something that I'm like extraordinarily comfortable with, even though I make dope ass shit. But I was just so like nervous about, like, okay, I'm going to be talking about each song. I'm going to be holding Kayla. It's everyone, all eyes on me kind of thing. But I'm just so blessed and so glad that I went forward with it. I didn't like chicken out or anything. My wife was instrumental in like making it, nicer in terms of the decor and ordering food and all this kind of stuff. And now going through the editing process of this 40-minute event that I had, my 3 cameras set up there, which was a lot, being the person who's there as well as being the tech person and all that. But I made it happen, got the footage. And now as I'm editing, I'm like, this is incredible that I have this footage, right? It's like it's so fun looking at it, reliving it, looking at these little Easter eggs of like this person's nodding his head during this song. This person is doing the hand up question thing during one of the songs where I keep saying, I actually do use my voice a little bit in one of the songs where I keep saying why. And it, like when he starts hearing it, like you can see from behind, he's going like this. And so like little things like that. I'm like, yo, this is so cool. I wouldn't have been able to experience this and kind of like be able to have this to look back on down the road. So I'm thrilled that I have that. I would love for people to check that album out wherever you get your music. And that's kind of the main that's the main stuff. I would say right now the main thing that I'm working on is taking that Chordmaster keys thing and like being super consistent with it, being intentional about it, understanding that I love connecting with people and I'm gifted at connecting with people and I want to not like be half-assed with regards to that like I have been, which is like I'll do an interview every so often, but I'm more focused on these other things. Now I'm like, let me keep this cadence going up. Let me get things set up in the studio like you guys I'm sure have, where it's just sit down, take the earbuds out. It's like everything is ready to go. And I'm there now. You know, now maybe the next step is like getting like a Calendly kind of thing so I can just send to people. I don't have to like send the emails every time. Calendly is like a scheduling. I don't know if you guys are familiar, scheduling platform. So like little things like that to even make the process smoother. But I'm excited, man. In a great space, and yeah, if anyone connects with me through this, like feel free to like. I would love to hear that this is where you found me from, and yeah, let me know, and we can have a little dialogue on the DMs or something.
Just if they send mean stuff though and message you and say, "Yeah, we heard you on those idiot show," just don't let us know. You know,
Well,
just
I feel
lie
like
about it.
I feel like the
That
type of
fucking
people who are
fat idiot who ate Whoppers. We heard you talking.
who everything that's round reminds him of a Whopper. And you went with a Whopper. So here's the deal. You went
Yeah.
with a Whopper
Right.
instead of
Right.
something else. So like
Right.
is Whopper, would you say a Whopper is like your would
Uh,
that be considered your go-to from a
I
burger
hate to say
perspective,
this.
fast food?
I hate to say this, but I've thought about this a lot, Kev. And
I thought you may have.
I I don't know because here's my thing. I love the Whopper,
You know it's a
but
big.
a Big Mac is just it's so good. But there if I had to get rid of Burger King, McDonald's, or Wendy's, aside from the Whopper, there's really nothing great. So I'd probably get rid of Burger King. And it's not that anything's great at Wendy's, but everything's okay at Wendy's.
I
Am I
see.
right?
Very analytical
You
approach.
don't I
Okay.
know it's very
Yeah,
sad actually. Like
it is a little sad. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not good. There's a reason why my fucking larges are becoming mediums really quickly. You know?
What about White Castle?
Not a fan. Not a fan. Although their milkshakes are very good.
White
I'm giving
Castle
them
the next day.
yeah.
Would you
Not a fan of White Castle.
okay. Yeah. I got you. I got you. What about
Brian, go on.
Chick-fil-A? Chick-fil-A.
I don't eat at that place. I don't like their viewpoints. I will never. I'm kidding around. If your
Yeah.
food's good, your food's fucking good. Chick Fil
Hey.
A is very good, but I'm not willing to wait 2 hours for anything.
Oh,
It's just
those
no.
lines be a little
Yeah, it's
crazy.
not even
Okay.
worth it for me. Like
Yeah.
I'm an idiot though. Like I pass by on a Sunday and I forget, and I'm like, wow, no one's there, and I'm like,
Always.
fuck me.
Yeah.
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 Brian, last minute stuff before I get to my gun to your head.
No, I don't have anything else.
All right, Kev, you ready? Quick little like lightning round here, and these are all things I came up with as the show is going on. So, all
Cool. Yeah.
right, would you rather sit down and do a concert? Not a concert. Would you rather get piano lessons from Yo-Yo Ma or be the best in the world at the yo-yo?
I don't know who Yo-Yo Ma is.
Oh, okay. He's like I think he's a piano player.
Oh. So
Is he a
okay.
piano player? Or was he a
I,
violinist? I'm gonna
well,
edit that out.
that's fine. If I mean I he might be. I regardless, if he is a piano player or if we're talking about a profound piano player getting
Right.
lessons from, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Then I'm definitely going that route 10 times out of 10 times because yo-yo is fun, but
right. But you're the best in the world at the yo-yo.
and that's where you can make a lot of money. But do I care about that? I'm not that interested in it.
Nah. All right, fine. Okay,
Yeah.
so I heard you guys talking about that what's the new Zelda game coming out?
Tears of the Kingdom.
Now, you can never play that ever,
Oh.
but you are the ultimate champion at the Ocarina of Time Zelda in Nintendo 64. So you have that crown, but you can never play the new Zelda game.
I'm Honestly, I know you're gonna kill me for this down there, Brian, but I, I would probably go with the Ocarina of Time thing. Honestly,
What?
I know that
Looks
sounds
like your
crazy.
friendship's over.
I know. Don't even give him my number at this point. Do I have to explain myself or just say
Sure,
it?
yeah,
Or
go
can I?
ahead. Yeah,
Can
yeah,
I?
go ahead.
So the thought process there is that I'm definitely excited for Tears of the Kingdom, but right now versus at a time in the past, the excitement level, even though I faked it a little bit with I'm excited for it. Of course, we all are,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Like I wouldn't be devastated if I didn't have a chance to play it right. If something happened and I didn't get it, I wouldn't be devastated. But
Yeah.
having that crown, like the Ocarina of Time is my favorite game of all time. So having that crown would be like kind of historic and very, very special and sentimental for me. So
Okay,
I'll have to go.
cool. All right, movies. 8 Mile or Drumline?
I have never seen Drumline, so 8 Mile.
8 Mile or Hustle and Flow?
I have seen Hustle and Flow, still 8 Mile. Eminem's my
Okay,
favorite rapper.
okay. Lupe or Royce the 5'9"?
Lupe. Although I love Royce the 5'9". Those two albums he dropped, the Allegory and the one before it, them shits were them people don't know about how good those were. Those are
I
amazing
know.
albums. You guys know.
Yeah, Boombox or a Walkman?
Walkman.
Okay, fair enough. That's
Yeah.
really all I got here. That's the only thing I
Walkman.
came up with.
I like
let's,
these questions. These are good, man. I like that.
let's flick back though. What would you consider your best meal if you had to pick fast food? Turning the tables, as they
Yeah,
say.
yeah. And no cheat answers like,
No,
oh, I'm gonna go with Chipotle.
no,
That's cheating. No.
it's the
So for
main
me,
three. Yeah,
well, main four, I'm gonna go with White Castle out of all those options. Believe it or not.
really.
And here's the reason why. Like
Yeah, I
the
need
other
to know.
day, the other day, I was leaving Aunt's house who plays basketball with us, right? We were watching
Right.
the game and it was late and I was like, I'm gonna get myself some food real quick. All right. I'm gonna get something. And White Castle and Chick-fil-A are very close to each other, as you may know, whoever lives in the area, right? Right
Yes.
in
Yep.
South Plainfield. And so, White Castle was what I wanted. Chick-fil-A is what is I guess a slightly healthier or healthier option, whatever. And so I went to Chick-fil-A. I was waiting online, and the whole time I was there, I was like, I don't want this crap. I want some White Castle right now. And I was mad. I didn't go with my gut. I was very upset with myself for that, for the reasons that you guys mentioned. Go with your gut, no pun intended. But like basically, like I know I'm gonna pay for this. If I eat this right now, it's not gonna be a good situation. This discussing the conversations going in that direction, but I still love the taste of a White Castle. Like I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna get 2 or 3 jalapeno cheeseburgers steamed.
Jeez.
Okay, I'm gonna get a regular sized French fries. I'm gonna get probably some onion rings. I'm gonna get probably some cheese sticks. I will get a chicken ring with cheese sandwich, and then
those are good. Those are good.
those are rocking. And then to the little sprinkle on top, I might, because it's 24/7 breakfast or all day breakfast, I might get a little sausage, egg, and cheese. Don't hate on those, because those sausage, egg, and cheese be on point. If you haven't tried them yet, they're actually
You're
good.
the only person I've ever heard choose White Castle.
Oh, is that right?
I will say this about White Castle. Out of all like fast food places, even some restaurants, solid mozzarella sticks.
Oh yeah, they're definitely good. Is that the only thing that you think are good there? Everything else is crap to you?
Everything else sucks.
Everything else is just like...
I'm a big crave case guy.
All right. Look, I'm gonna say this. White Castle is very good. I enjoy it, but I don't enjoy the day after.
Gotcha. Fair.
That's
Fair.
the
okay. Fair enough.
You don't have that issue with the other restaurant. Most people probably don't. It's like I get that for sure. White Castle is the only one that's to me like a crack type situation where it's like it just tastes, to me, it just tastes better, a mile better than the other ones. But yeah, you're paying for it for sure.
Yes.
I forgot one question because you mentioned video game themes. The Zelda theme or the Mario Brothers theme?
Zelda's music, man. Timeless.
Was that the one like dun, 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 dun,
yeah.
That's it, right?
This guy act like he's not a nerd over here knowing that. Only nerds would know that.
Yeah.
It'd be great if my phone went off and that was the ringtone. What is that?
You gotta edit that in there, man.
No, I'll edit the Yo-Yo Ma thing because I found out he was an American cellist. Actually,
I would still take lessons from that person over the yo-yo thing.
I'd
I
rather
think.
be good at the yo-yo. I'd
No,
like
actually,
to
no,
walk
I
the
wouldn't.
dog.
Yeah. What, the Duncan and
Yeah,
the little cat?
Dunkin' yo-yo with the butterfly on the side, right?
Those are
Yo-yos are
fun
weird.
things.
Yo-yos made a comeback, then went away, came back again. Then people realized, yeah, these do suck. Like it was kind of like the
what's the
hacky
point?
sack. Like
Yeah.
it's like, what are we
Yeah.
doing? We tried
Right.
to bring these back. Kev, thank you very much for joining us. Stay on though for like a couple minutes after, man.
Sure.
Like, really appreciate it. I'm sure I'll see you this week when we play basketball, and very, very thankful you came on, buddy.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me. This was a great time. I really appreciate it.